start looking at, given no alternative source, it would be all served by groundwater, would be the assumption. So given that, we started also asking, and we have in the policy, in the allocation rules and regs, there is a policy about accounting for effective precip that essentially has three different thresholds as to how much rain credit you get, depending on how much rain is measured at the Merced Airport between October and the end of March, with the potential to add a little bit more credit if we get April and May rains. The conversation then was about if I fallow ground and and that land is getting included in my ET analysis, that crop I might be just plowing back in. It's on there to make sure it doesn't create dust or something, but it may actually transpire more water. So am I going to get dinged for that? Because if so, I'm not going to put anything on the ground. And that kind of rolled further into if I am cover cropping officially, whether holistically on a field or between rows of a permanent operation, how is this going to hurt me or help me? And we want to not get in a position where the GSA is disincentivizing cover cropping. So with that kind of context, one of the things we were discussing is, and it stems a little bit from some things that are written up for East Turlock, for those of you who might be familiar with East Turlock's approach. We can discuss giving an added bonus credit if you have a cover crop that somehow is a recognized action of cover cropping, not just it's a weedy field that just nothing was done with. And there's some rules, like East Turlock actually defines that in some way and points to some agronomic elements. I apologize, I don't have that. I should have that right in front of me, but I don't right now.
I bet your NRCS has a definition of something as well, something.
Yeah, there's so we could get to something that at least says, hey, I'm doing X and it qualifies, right?
It has to be a multiplier or something.
And if you have that, then we should say, all right, you get another, and for discussion purposes, just say you get another inch of rain credit or something like that that gives you some additionality to cover the fact that that cover crop probably was transpiring some additional water than bare soil was, even if it's in the rows. And we don't want you to get a higher ET signature and not enough effective precip compensation such that it's now coming out of your allocation bucket. So we need to potentially give a credit there. And since that credit would probably apply for the gross acres, you might actually get a little bit of bump for that field growing also, which would reflect the fact that cover cropping is supposed to assist with soil moisture retention. And so that maybe we do get a little bit of added benefit. So if I have 50 acres non-cover crop versus 50 acres cover cropped, let's say the ET signature from one was 100 acre feet and the other one was 120 acre feet. If we give the rain that would take care of the effective precip for the 100, that person with 120 is now going to get dinged, right? Because we're not subtracting off and they're going to have an extra amount of ET that's going to be assumed to come out of the allocation. But if we just gave them that extra inch or something of credit, it would apply to the whole 50 acres. And so they would actually get an added chunk of water for even the portion that's not cover cropped within the rows, right? You might have a row of barren trees because it's fall and then a growing cover crop in the middle or whatever might be happening, right? So that a concept along those lines is what we were thinking about. If you, the other conversation that Mike had brought up, I believe, is if you went and geofenced off a field or a parcel, which is going to be allowed in the groundwater accounting platform, we are not going to give you any rain credit for that ground because that rain credit is supposed to address the consumption, the ET signature of that field, but that field is now out. So it's not like we're going to just award you with extra water that is somehow transferable elsewhere on the property. I think that is not in the best interest of the GSA. So those are the kind of the two thoughts that are out there right now, and let's have some conversation.
Greg has more than two thoughts.
Okay, let me summarize the two thoughts. One is you get a bump in credit.
Later on, I mean, I started to follow you,
Yeah.
about the credit for effective precipitation for cover cropping, be it qualified, and then there was you mentioned returning the cover crop into the ground versus a cover crop harvesting. Was that?
I didn't, if I said that, I didn't mean to say that, Bob.
Well, yeah, because I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, let me try and make it super simple. If you have a cover crop and it is a parcel that is being accounted for in your allocation management account and it's being monitored, we should give you a credit of another, whatever the right number is, some sort of bump in your precip value for the entire footprint of that parcel. If you are geofencing off a part of a parcel or an entire parcel from monitoring, you don't get any benefit from that acreage. That's not going to get any effective precip bump or anything, even if you may have planted it with something. We're just not measuring it. It's not part of the system. It's ignored for that year. Does that help?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it has to do with actual returning the cover crop into the ground versus, not that wasn't something you mentioned.
No, that wasn't. And that wouldn't, I don't think that would matter from our perspective. I think the only representation was that cover cropping in general is supposed to add soil moisture holding and improve your soils, right? So that's why you want to continue to incentivize it. However you manage that, if you roll it back into the ground or if you just mow it, we don't care about that part.
Okay.
Is there a reason why we might want to care about that?
No, I just wanted to understand what the concept we were discussing.
Personally, I like it. I think it makes sense. I was having a hard time differentiating how we would do like cover cropping between vineyards and orchards compared to just open fields. But this kind of eliminates that and it's
Right.
like you basically submit what you're doing, and maybe it's a receipt of your mix that is validated as a true cover crop. And then once you submit it for your acre, boom, you get whatever the right number is, and it
Right.
will
So
let
as an example, like in 24, we had 14 inches of eligible inches of rain, and in 25 it was 8. Just to give two different, 24 was a little wetter. In each of those, if you added another inch, is another inch the right number, or is it an inch and a half, or is it 2 inches? Or does it matter as to how wet or dry it is? If we're in above average, is it only an inch more if it's below average? Do you get, we can't really give, I'm reluctant. If we're already giving you 100% at 9 inches, then we can't really give somebody 110%. I don't know. We might run into an issue there. There's a nuance question. Or are we just giving credit to incentivize, knowing that it may be an additive to the bucket? And it's just simple math. So you get an extra inch, even if we didn't actually get an extra inch of rain.
yes, something simple, but there's only so much groundwater pie too. We can't just give it out for free. There actually has to be some like correlation between the real benefit. But it seems this is easy. I mean, it's not easy. It's another thing that the GSA is gonna have to.
Yeah, I think it's the most simplistic way though.
It is.
This is
Like-
inches,
Try to put as much burden on the grower as
take
possible.
acre feet and put acre feet over here.
Hopefully, hope
Should be the
Hope it's
inches.
another- something that can be uploaded in the portal, like a water, other surface water, right? It's not.
We're talking on the portal level, we're talking about, you know, how we're gonna do the fallow fields where you're gonna outline your fallow
Yeah.
field. I think we could do something really similar and have one for a cover crop field where you outline your cover crop field and then upload the documentation. So it should be
Yeah,
simple.
should be. Famous last
Simple
word.
on the-
It does
uploading
sound, it does sound
Sounds like it
relatively
would be.
simple, yeah.
Yeah.
Could you guys hold my hand a little bit? Because I know that one of the weaknesses, maybe that's a strong word, but one thing I'm concerned about at least is the inaccuracies of OpenET. If you had, let's just assume for the sake of argument, if a grower had a field that is 100% fallow, is that grower better off geofencing and put, I guess first question is, can the grower geofence and still put a cover crop, assuming there's no irrigation? And I think that the answer to that is yes. But is that grower better off geofencing and putting a cover crop, or is that grower better off leaving it open and then getting an additional allocation? Do we know the answer to that? Again, this is just assuming
Yeah.
a single 100% field that's fallow, not in between rows.
I hear you. I hear you, Lou, and I don't know because I think the question, so let's run your hypothesis out further. That field that's fallow is going to have an ET signature from OpenET if it's included in the monitoring. And even adding an extra inch of rain, does that end up adding a little bit back to the guy's total AMA, his total account? By doing that, and he gets an extra 5 acre feet or something like that, so it was worthwhile? Or does it end up dinging because of some of the inaccuracies, which are always going to be there with any kind of the monitoring, whether you're metered, whether you're OpenET, etc., right?
I guess that's my initial question.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer. I think this is an area where we may, just like everything else, we're going to have to start down a path, try and keep it simple and manageable. And if we're finding it's creating problems one way or the other, we're going to have to adjust it. And that's part of the reason why we have the 5-year bucket, because one year it might underestimate, the next year it might overestimate, just depending on, you know, a variety of things.
Following down that path, assuming it's equal or something of the sort, I mean, initially when we spoke about this, I figured the person would be better off by assuming, again, let's assume with the hypothetical that the field is 100% fallowed. The person would be better off geofencing that field out and putting a cover crop there. But then the tax response was, well, that's not going to incentivize anybody to put a cover crop. They'll just geofence that field out and they won't put a cover crop at all. So isn't Brad's kind of comment all contingent upon the person being better off? Then don't we need to find a number which makes them better off? And I have to think we could pull some examples of the last 5 years of fallowed fields.
Well, I'm going to go to that just on the main pretense a little bit. If you're going to, what we don't want to have happen is if you did not geofence that field off, we don't want it to count against you because it overestimated compared to the rain we attributed to that fallowed ground or that planted, otherwise fallow field. And then it takes water out of your account. And that's the disincentive. So we want to at least make that 0. Right?
Agreed.
If we are in a position of we're trying to reward something and create extra, I think we're starting to be a little bit of a slippery slope there, because now it's one thing if you're in fields like between rows and some of that stuff, that I think we want to incentivize that. And I think there is value you can get there. But if you're now going to rest the field for one reason or another, and whether you plant it or not is dependent on whether you can get water into your other parts of your account, seems inconsistent with the intent of
Yeah.
that action.
If
Okay.
that's the case, wouldn't geofencing just solve that issue in general? You know, why have this discussion about, again, a hypothetical field that's 100% covered?
Because we have your hypothetical, yeah, for your hypothetical 100%, probably you would want to geofence it. What we're also talking about is a lot of permanent crops, vines and trees, where we want to incentivize cover cropping for various agronomic and regenerative ag benefits.
And are those incentives not there for other fallowed fields? Or I can restate that.
We need to write it down.
Are we trying to incentivize only the inner row cover crops, or are we trying to incentivize cover crops basin wide?
We are trying to not disincentivize cover crops.
I think that's the key right there, even though it was double negative. I think what we're trying to do is have Sigma not be the reason people don't cover crop. Like,
Right.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of reasons to do it, and that's on other programs to go prove out. But what we want to do is not be the reason.
Yeah.
I would have done it but otherwise. I would have done it but Sigma, I guess is the way to put it.
So Brad, following that logic out, wouldn't geofencing work for a field that's 100% fallowed? You know, because then somebody, yes, they're not going to get the annual precipitation, but they also won't be dinged from it. Is that enough to incentivize, or do we need something? Or is a farmer going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to leave that as dirt"? And then we have air issues and all the other stuff.
So it's a great question. What we were hearing in the conversation last time, which is why we have this meeting now, was it was proposed that fallowed field, even if I geofence it off, I should still get some sort of, let's say it's a 50-acre fallowed field, and I plant it so it doesn't get air quality or whatever might be your reasons. I want an extra credit into my bucket from rain that fell on the ground on that field. And I think, Brad, I appreciate the way you just described that. We don't want Sigma to be the reason for or not for. We just want it to not interfere with your decision that might be otherwise determining whether you plant. Now, in some cases, it might give you a little bit of credit because we'll give you that extra inch on your entire footprint, and your cover cropping is only, 8 feet amongst every 12-foot row, right? So in reality, you're getting 4 feet of whatever that acreage ends up being. A third of your total property might be getting an extra inch.
And you get the allocation associated with the rainwater, which you otherwise wouldn't get.
Right.
So Brad, I guess is, I mean, everybody here knows, I guess, the row crop business better than me, but is that an incentive enough if you could geofence your field out and you're not going to be dinged for it at all? You won't get any benefit for it, but will growers still put cover crops on that?
I think they will. I think they would.
And get a winter wheat or something like that. I mean, we've got a couple fields we do that.
Yeah, and I think because of the market right now, people will cover crop and not even do the winter wheat, just to get extra soil benefits when they set the ground out. On the open fields, the orchards and vines between rows, that's a whole different story. But I like if you enroll it. Yeah, I don't know. I have to see it on paper, I think.
and it probably comes out to being a personal business decision of each of the grower, whether or not you want to leave it to be captured by open ET and get the extra effective precipitation. So I want to be careful. It's not extra allocation. It's extra precipitation that you would get for the cover crop.
Yeah.
Or if you want to geofence it off, not measure it by open ET, and just the rain covers all of that. And I guess a question that I would pose to the TAC members, and it's going kind of similar to where Lou is going, is do you think the GSA should be taking action to incentivize cover cropping? Or is considering the, policy recommendation to basically keep the GSA neutral in its effects on cover cropping? Like, where are you at with that? Is it the GSA's job to incentivize cover crops?
I feel like if you're not de-incentivizing it, you kind of are incentivizing it, at least for some farmers. Like I know, like a lot of the times we just get in, the health of our soil has gone up a lot since we've been there. So I know that's the reason we do it. So as long as it's not being de-incentivized, I think farmers will still continue to farm with their same practices. And like if they were using cover crops before, they'll still utilize those same practices. For me, at least, in our farm. I don't know about that.
But your dad was saying, if I don't get some sort of benefit, then I'll have to stop, because I need the water so bad.
Because it'll count against your application.
Because it'll count against your application, so then you.
Well, and
Yeah.
unless you turn it all off,
And then, yeah.
then it
and-
doesn't
yeah.
count.
And in this scenario, I think, with what we're talking about, it kind of gets to the bottom of all that.
Yeah.
Solves it.
As long as farmers aren't being penalized, I think that's the biggest thing.
Otherwise, their allocation being used up by cover crop.
Yes, I agree,
That's
because
the
I
problem.
think that would be de-incentivizing it. That's what I mean by it. So as long as it be some sort of wash or, I don't know how that would work on your guys' end necessarily, but from our perspective, I think that.
What they're talking about is you get some sort of precipitation credit that give extra,
Yeah, as long as it's not
Because-
geofence.
Yeah.
which either way, you get some sort of credit of precipitation because of the acceptance of the known benefit of cover cropping for
Mhm.
soil infiltration, water retention.
Because that crop is still gonna show up on ET.
That's
That's the part.
that's the. Whatever it is, if it's a half inch or an inch, whatever it is of precipitation that you get back into your account, that it had presumably consumed, you get it back up there.
Mhm.
Isn't the way to solve for this is maybe get a sample size of a few farms that are fence line to fence line, cover cropped, but not irrigated? And see how the ET signature compares, because I for one, I'm pretty nervous about the accuracy of open ET. But we can see how the ET signature compares relative to the precipitation that occurred. And maybe that's how you solve that number. I mean, I know the engineering firms can do that. But
We can definitely do that if we know some fields to look at, and we can help inform this conversation with that. I just don't know I don't want to be the one randomly picking some fields and go, well, it looks like this one might have been, because that would just be based on a few satellite snapshots and we have no idea what's really going on. So if you could say this parcel in this year was done this way, we could help look at that pretty quickly and see if that informs the question. Because I agree, we don't want to disincentivize. We want to essentially be neutral. And to the extent there's maybe some benefit that's ancillary, great.
Yeah.
But it's not our reason for doing it. Our reason is to not be punitive in any way that would cause people not to do something that is good for agronomic health.
I kind of think I've been thinking about this, and it's hard to get your arms around it because we really don't have any tests or any kind of things that the Farm Bureaus run or not the Farm Bureau, our
There you go.
Ag Commissioner has run to really have us understand exactly what is the ET of cover crops, what is the ET of weeds.
Dirt.
Yeah. But because we definitely don't want, I agree, to de-incentivize cover cropping. And it's not just the fact that it helps soil water penetration or keeps the soil from moving. It also it cuts down tumbleweeds. You plant a grain and you don't have any tumbleweeds. And, you know, tumbleweeds are a public hazard.
It's a problem.
So we don't want to have our policies, you know, de-incentivize any of the efforts of putting in a cover crop. But I don't think we really have the information to say exactly what it should be. It's almost like, you know, can we run some tests or examples and then
Well,
modify our experience?
to get to your point about the known numbers, there's of what the crop demand is. Cal Poly has standards for our region, for all these crops, cover crops included, that we could start from. And then, you know, whatever kind of study we want to rely on. You know, for me, I think it would be beneficial. I think we're kind of at the point where maybe Greg and Adriel could write down bullet points of what a program could look like, and then we could react to that.
One thing I want to, and we could do that first, Brad, yeah, and good conversation on this. I think there are, if somebody could point out a couple of fields that says, yeah, we cover cropped this one and the neighbor didn't, and we could use that to pull some data and look at a couple of things, I think that would be awesome.
I can look into that. I can take that as a takeaways, go find fields that have gone in and out of cover cropping. I can tell you lots of fields, orchards and vineyards that have put in cover crops, but to think of a whole field,
Multiple fields.
like multiple
So that's what,
fields.
it
Yeah,
originally
More
was
than one.
together.
it's really something new that
Right.
stigma is gonna be a driver for, is.
Right.
Most sweet potato farmers are cover cropping, otherwise the fields blow, and then yeah, so.
Yeah, maybe you would be better to I don't know as many sweet potato farmers.
Well, I could definitely get, you know, some participation into study.
That, if we could just identify, and even I would, Brad, I would appreciate getting a couple of orchards that you know maybe are similar age, one's cover crop, one's not, that are nearby, or vineyards or something. It's like we can get some of that to do some. The other thing I want to point out that in all of this, where we're trying to be as accommodating to the variances of hydrology and operations and management, we have if we're up to 9 inches, you get 100%. If you're 9 to 12, you get 100% plus 50% of that next chunk. And then if you're above 12, you get 9 plus the next 50% or something, I think. No, you get 12 plus the next 50%. East Turlock, which is also trying to do something on effective precip, gives you a bump, but they max out at 12 inches of effective precip, and they don't give you anything more than that, even if you had a really wet year. So we are, you know, trying to accommodate already these fluctuations and trying to address that. I absolutely agree that there should be a bump for cover cropping, but that'll add to those other numbers we already have that are staggered, which I think is at least a little more representative of how growers are reacting to actual rain conditions. So we can, if take away, some people could send through Lacey some parcels, we can look. We can also draft up a couple of bullets of what this might look like and research what the definition of a cover crop is, because you're right, Brad, it's somewhere. And so we can make sure that's showing up and float that to you back through Lacey, back out to the TAC.
We can put together the kind of a list of what we're talking about too, like language that would address this, that, you know, would be proposed by the TAC,
That's
if
kind of
that's
what
how you want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And still early, but I might as well start off in that mode.
Yeah, and I think we would just add it to the accounting for effective precip section, where we would say if you have a cover crop that meets certain requirements, the number in section X gets augmented by something.
more of the work we do than the less the strategic planning committee or the board has to do. As far as backing up our recommendation with legitimate research or facts or whatever. Example, other DSAs that are doing similar.
Okay,
But yeah, it would be good to check open ET on cover cropped fields that are close to each other.
yeah, agree.
But then looking at Cal Poly standards for our area may be beneficial as well.
He's talking about their, the regional maps like Region 12.
Yeah, there's a guide from like the 80s or 90s. Actually, it's been updated probably into the 2000s. For
Yeah.
each region on what the crop demand is.
Right.
It's okay. Right, it's a standard.
Okay, well, let's look at a couple things and help you guys get, feel a little more comfortable with some ideas to make sure the main takeaway is we are not wanting to disincentivize in any way. And to the extent we're not disincentivizing, hopefully we are incentivizing, right?
Yeah, I think we need to look at it more, and I don't think Lou is alone in being concerned about the accuracy of open ET as we start into this, and so, I mean, I think it's something we have to delicately dance around.
Yep.
And not to pour cold water on everybody, I pull the field that we have that's been planted to the same cover crop for the last 5 years. And I've got years where open ET says 12 inches, and I've got years where open ET says 25 inches.
Do you have that with the rain in each one of those years?
I'm not sure if I'm using open ET correct, but it has to be the rain. It wasn't irrigated at all.
Right, right. And there's, I mean, so we had, what was our number and what was the year with the higher number you just had?
2024 says 25 inches.
Yeah,
Average rain,
Yeah, that was rain. And then 2023 is 19 inches.
that was the most rain ever.
yeah. So we had,
Read
the
it.
total rain. 21 inches of rain in water year 23, 15, and 24. So yeah, these are, Lou, I am in no way trying to defend open ET. All of these methods, whether we're using a meter, whether you're using remote sensing, we're coming at, there's assumptions embedded in all of those. We need to get more and more comfortable. Again, why we gave a 5-year bucket that gives us this, hopefully a little bit of slosh. But let's look at some of those. Please share your fields that you came up with if you could, and we'll take a look also and see what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a little bit sobering because you said, in 2024, there's 15 inches of rain. So this gives you 10 extra inches of draw, even though there's no irrigation. And then 20.
Well, yeah, and it also depends on the months we're pulling all that, right? So we're, the number I just read was an October to March number. So I may not have, so let's, we're talking about how we're using effective precip to kind of credit everybody, but the actual ground that has no irrigation on it, the only water that it's going to consume is from rain. That might be latent from a prior year, but not likely for this area. So there's things we got to.
And maybe that's enough, right? I mean, because I'm looking at this field, we would, based upon what you're saying, because of the variations, it looks like, and this is anecdotal, but we would be much better off just geofencing this field out and not getting any credit, because then we don't lose 10 inches in a year by planting a cover crop.
Right.
But maybe giving an extra inch to the other growers who have it in between rows of a vineyard or whatever it is enough to incentivize it. Maybe that's enough. But
Or
based
enough,
on this
yeah.
limited conversation, I'm looking at, this is again anecdotal, but just one random point that I picked in 2024. Where Open ET says we drew 25 inches, but we got 15 inches of rain, it's better off geofencing that off.
Right, and I'm your comparison to 15 inches of rain, I was just looking at Adriel had pulled up some numbers. I'm not sure if we have all the same months that are equating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, hopefully there's a way you guys can normalize it. And I'm not taking this as gospel in any stretch.
But your point is well taken, that there can be discrepancies that can be significant enough to cause pause for all of us.
Yeah, but maybe it's enough, as Brad said. Maybe that's enough. Just an inch is enough to incentive or not disincentivize, if that's the phraseology or terminology we want to use.
We're going to double negatives.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll draft something as if it would be added to the current draft rules and regulations, so you could start seeing some language and then try and share some example material with that. So we can all collectively look at that and see what is the right kind of number under different circumstances that should get added.
Eduardo, Bob, anybody else who has some cover crop fields and maybe neighboring fallow fields that we could look at in years past. Identify those, and then we can kind of run those through our little scenario and
Can
see
do
what that result is.
I think he's got a lot, and I can come up with a few.
Okay,
Well,
Yeah, I'll find some.
you just want an outline of a map, kind of the areas,
yeah,
the block, the parcel.
yeah, the parcel, just the APN and the year is really all we'd need to go back and look.
And you're not gonna be using anybody's names. on
Yeah.
anything.
No, not
Just-
looking
just
for,
look-
we don't
Just
want
looking at
names.
data, just
Yeah.
looking at water use on different cropping patterns
Yeah.
to help inform.
Yeah, and this, I think it's just gonna be tact discussion, this is
Yeah,
not,
very informal.
My
That makes
sense
it
is,
easy.
we're gonna want a normal year, not a very wet year, because you could have just open ground.
yeah,
But because it was so wet, it's gonna be just as green as a ground that was planted to cover crop.
But I think the point now, though, is to look at all different types of years, so we
Yeah.
can come up with this.
if you have the same field over several years, that'd be great.
Yeah, you kind of know the history of it and see how it reacts in different scenarios.
And Bob, if we're also adding something that says a cover crop has to include a certain activity, or as Brad had mentioned, maybe some seed mix or something. If you just didn't do anything, and obviously weed seeds are just going to show up and grow, we're not giving you any credit because you didn't satisfy the first piece of that of defining yourself as planting a cover crop or carrying one over across time.
Okay, so we can do this over the next 2-3 weeks. Do you, as a small group that gets to decide for everybody else, want to meet again in December or November or earlier December? How much time do you want to give? When do you want to meet again? Your normal schedule would be meeting in October and then meeting again in December. So we can add a middle. Your normal date would be the Thanksgiving week, so I'm not in town that week, so
Yeah,
I would say
definitely
let's not
not
do
that.
that week.
Don't do the Thanksgiving week.
So the week before that is the week of November 17th. So we could pick some times and send a doodle poll. If you guys want to do that, or we could bounce to right after Thanksgiving and look at early December.
Is that in early December is when our normally scheduled meeting would be?
It would normally be the third week of December, so again, we
We
bump
bump
that
it up.
forward anyway.
I agree. Either way, everybody wants to do.
Yeah, I'm fine with early December.
Early December, okay, let's do that. We'll send,
Not the first week of December.
maybe
maybe.
Oh, yeah, Aqua.
Second week.
the second week of December sounds like a
Second week
real
of
winner.
There you go. If we can give you guys a date from this room, that makes it easier. Is it?
So that's the week of the 8th. December 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 is the GSA meeting.
Really hard week for me,
It
but
is-
do
it
not
is
make it
a-
on me.
It is a tough week for me as well, so,
But the second week of December.
yeah.
So
What about Tuesday the 9th?
I'm out, but, because I'm at a conference, but that's, you do not have to,
Well, we
Book
need,
your own
we need you for a quorum.
that's true.
We need as many people as possible for a quorum.
That's
You're out that whole week?
The 8th and 9th I'm out, for sure, but then the rest of that week is just difficult with other meetings I already have. We have some,
What about the
And
week of
that's
the
going on.
15th? So it's right before Christmas. It's usually a pretty quiet week because people are already starting to focus on other things.
We have a meeting scheduled.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have a
We
meeting
have,
on the
we have on
16th.
16th already.
Let's
Well,
just
let's
keep that.
keep that.
Let's just keep that.
that's what I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure this is your calendar, not yours, but.
I love it. It's Danielle's calendar
Yes.
event. Thank you, Danielle.
Well, it don't,
You did so good.
That nobody even noticed.
Danielle just has perfect foresight.
Alrighty, anybody have anything else before we wrap up 10 minutes early?
I just wanted to clarify, because I think this would inform your instructions on drafting an amendment to the rule. But as it's currently contemplated, there would be a protocol within our GSA groundwater account where you could geofence, similar to excluding areas, you could geofence an area where there's a cover crop. And if you geofence an area, then there's some condition precedent to satisfy. You got to buy seeds, you got to do some other, prove to the GSA somehow that you've done some condition precedent. And then that would give you the allocation. Is that the protocol, Greg, that you are thinking of?
No, I think so if you're gonna geofence, we really don't care. That just is not part of the monitoring for that year.
I think earlier in the discussion, okay, so I understand that. I understand the geofence excluding. I'm wondering, how do you include your crop? Or
So
include
if
your
you're not going to geofence, then you're gonna need to demonstrate something. And Lacey had shared earlier some stuff, I think that was coming out of East Turlock, and they had said with some definitions of cover crops shall be maintained on the field for some number of months or something, and then it says as specified in CDFA Healthy Soils Program 2023. So I mean, there's some sort of definition that we can look to that isn't a burden. I mean, the last thing we want is people going like, here's my seed mix. I mean, it seems kind of ridiculous. Something that just is a self-attestation that you are doing an action to grow a cover crop and you're not just not maintaining your field, I guess.
But we could also do it through the platform where you identify the field, much like you identified the field that you wanna like geofence and mark as inactive. You could also identify the field by drawing a polygon and calling it cover crop. And that should be available through the platform in the coming functionality additions.
Right. Maybe that better answers your question, Lou, because if it is not your entire parcel and it's just a field, you want to be able to mark that field and say, hey, this one should get an extra credit.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, that's a little bit more work for the grower. I think that that's probably more accurate.
Right. But knowing how fields don't always line up with parcels, that's probably the right way to do it.
It'll take one time.
Okay, so we've got a plan, we've got a little bit of homework for the GSA team, we've got homework for the TAC members. We've got our next meeting on December 16th. And we don't have anything else. We'll go ahead and adjourn at 2:53. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Bye.
The investigation, you're gonna want the acreage that we plant the cover crops, the acreage we didn't, and what was harvested.
I don't think we care about what was harvested.